Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the BDRP Early Show. I'm your host, D. Doss. As always, I'm happily joined by my good friend and co-host, Mr. Merlin, who is muted, in case he didn't know. What's up, Merle?
Nothing much. Just enjoying the day.
Man, I'll tell you what, whoever put that together is a savage, bro. So anyways, we got Mr. Merle starting to learn some video editing, putting some things together. Very proud. So welcome to the BDRP Early Show, folks. Today we're going to talk about the Mandella Effect. As promised, after this show, you're going to get a couple of things that I've been working on. One, I can go ahead and tell you, is a letter that was written specifically to the cryptid community with a focus on people who are interested in Dogman about the dangers that are posed by going out into the field looking for these things consistently. And it was interesting enough that I wanted to record it and give it to you guys. I was just going to kind of post it somewhere, but I was like, nah, they can hear this. And it was very well written. And yeah, I hope you guys get something from it. I did. And like, again, this person's a clinical psychologist. And I do believe in the spiritual help that's given by our faith, but I truly believe in the science of the mind as well. So trauma is real. PTSD is real. We used to call it shell shock back in our grandparents' days. But believe it or not, you can become shell shocked from this stuff, folks. And you got to be really, really careful what you're taking in and how much of it you are. So anyways, Merle and I were talking today. I'm sorry. Go ahead, brother.
I didn't say anything.
Oh, Merle and I were talking today about the Mandela Effect. What started it off, though, was something really, really strange. How many people, drop a one in the chat if you remember a gentleman named Ted Kaczynski. Drop a one in the chat if you remember Ted Kaczynski. He was the Unabomber. And he was given that title because obviously he bombed places in unison. No, he was a grade A piece of work. Now, I was talking to Merle earlier, and I remember Ted Kaczynski dying in like maybe the late 90s, but the early 2000s for sure. And apparently he has committed suicide here recently.
Yeah.
So, and we remembered it literally the same way, the exact same way. And you folks have heard me before. I don't really subscribe to a lot of these, what I believe to be some sort of psyops. But this was the one that kind of caught me with one foot off the merry-go-round. Now, what was it, Merle? Because we remembered the exact same thing.
Yeah, he didn't even try to contest it. He pled guilty, and that they didn't have to do any appeals or anything. And it was like the rocket docket. He went straight to get his injection.
Right, and it was over with quick. I remember them reading his manifesto, and just like you said, he didn't want to have something that was long and drawn out. He wanted the death penalty.
Yeah, they were trying to, matter of fact, have him declared incompetent and enter an insanity plea for him, and he fought him on it.
And see, E-Rev said the same thing I did, and I know it's easy to get those two mixed up. The Oklahoma City bomber. Now, I'm so Oklahoman, folks. Let me tell you, I was born in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma County, Oklahoma. You don't get much more Okie than that.
Yeah.
And I do remember Timothy McVeigh was that guy's name. Yeah, and I remember. Yes, I remember. If any Oklahoman wasn't watching that, I mean, I remember the night that he wrote the lightning or he got his injection or whatever. So I distinctly remember him dying, but even still, that's what my mind went back to. Maybe I was thinking about him, but that sticks out so much in my mind, and it made me start thinking more about Kaczynski. Now it's fuzzy, but I do remember the parameters of it, and the same parameters that my brother Merle did. And
And think about it. How long ago did Timothy McVeigh get put to death?
wow, that's a good question. I think it was still the 90s.
At the
Maybe
very
it was
least,
the
it was early
2000s.
2000s. But I mean, he's already been put to death, and the Unabomber was still kicking. Uh-uh.
Yeah, yeah, because I mean that's now, folks. I'll read you this and drop a one if you remember Ted Kaczynski actually dying earlier than what they're saying he did. Because if it's true, we can't be the only ones. Now they're saying like how forgettable. This is the article to read right here. Boom. I want to present you guys with this in case you think we're pulling a good old fashioned flim flam on you. You know, old Uncle D wouldn't do that to you. But drop a one in the chat if you remember that the Unabomber had already been killed. Drop a two in the chat if you did not. And this is kind of a little Gallup poll that I'm putting together because it is very, very strange. And now, I chalked it up to, and we've had discussions like this before, I chalked it up to the Mandela Effect itself, to people misremembering, which is a thing. Folks misremember stuff.
Yeah.
So here we go. No, that's the wrong tab. Sorry about that.
Wow, it's strange to see him with a haircut.
Yeah. I mean, that looked like a current photo. Now, I remember this guy. Thank you, Mr. D. Knuckles says in 1998 that we said about the late 90s, early 2000s at the most, right? That's what I remember about 1998. That makes sense.
Yeah, that's
so
about
let's read this article. Because that's, again, you know, I have my theories if the Mandela Effect is real, but I never really gave it much merit. Nobody cares about that. I don't care about the World Cup. We're Americans. How a forgettable UC Berkeley professor named Ted Kaczynski became the Unabomber. Before it was the Unabomber, Ted Kaczynski was a young UC Berkeley professor living in a cottage on Regent Street and nursing a grudge that grew into one of America's most famous violent vendettas. Kaczynski was born in Chicago in 1942 and earned the moniker Prodigy by the time he was in high school. At age 15, he accepted a scholarship to Harvard. He was 16 when he stepped foot on campus intellectually, if not socially or emotionally, ready for university life. During those formative years, Kaczynski was part of a psychological experiment run by Professor Henry Murray. Murray was later outed for running what amounted to cruel human experimentation on young adults. His goal was to, yes, his goal was to, yeah, and if you didn't hear him, it's MK Ultra. His goal was to subject them to extreme stressors to see how people responded to trauma. After rounds of verbal abuse that focused on each test subject's weakness and triggers, the test subjects would have to watch the footage of themselves being berated. Kaczynski allegedly spent 200 hours in the experiment. In 1962, now 20 years old, now he was 20 years old in 1962. It's a long time ago, folks. In 1962, now 20 years old, Kaczynski moved to the University of Michigan to pursue his advanced degrees in mathematics. His 1967 what the hell? His 1967 doctoral dissertation on boundary functions. Sorry, old Luna was like under my chair looking the back of my feet. His 1967 doctoral dissertation on boundary functions was celebrated by colleagues, but is largely outdated now, as the theorems explored by Kaczynski have since been proven. He probably would have gone on to some other area if he were to stay in mathematics, one professor told the Los Angeles Times in 1996. As you can imagine, there are not 1,000 theorems to be proved about this stuff. After publishing his dissertation, Kaczynski started a job as an assistant math professor at UC Berkeley. The rising star was just 25 years old and soon already on a tenure track. That summer, though, brother David Kaczynski, the man who would later read the Unabomber's manifesto and recognize it as his brother's work, I remember that.
Yes,
remembered
turned him in.
Right. Remembered Ted was listless. He didn't seem particularly gratified or proud of or full of himself, David Kaczynski told the New York Times. Faculty and students noticed too. By all accounts, Professor Kaczynski was a failure. Students noted their young teachers seemed to just read from textbooks. He absolutely refuses to answer questions, one undergraduate wrote in a student questionnaire. Colleagues in the math department found him similarly cold and shy. I can go down and probably tell you something about every one of those people in the math department at the time and picture them in my mind, one Cal math professor told the Times. But I can't recollect this guy, nor does anybody I know recollect him. That's very interesting. I'm
Ain't
gonna
it
jump back
just?
over here with you. I'm gonna jump back over here with you guys. Now, see,
Mm-hmm.
I think there's some good old fashioned American BS going on. It's crazy. So this shy, bashful guy that they say a student wrote a questionnaire about. Now I've talked to professors. I have a teacher, and this was an English teacher. He was my advanced English teacher. I just saw him in the grocery store the other day. His name's Larry Buck. One of his brothers was a local politician here. He recognized me from high school, and I'm 38 years old.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Not that I was shy or anything, or he wouldn't
And that's a student.
recognize
Can
me.
you imagine faculty not remembering another teacher?
Exactly. Now, see, and we're putting this together with y'all. Like, yeah, the Mandela Effect, sure. But set that to the side because you said something earlier, Merle, that this all could just be some flim flam.
That's
But
what I
that,
think this one is.
bro, after reading that, I think the entire. I mean, I want to do a deep dive into Kaczynski, but the whole thing may be some sort of a flim flam.
Well, think about this. Did you read that manifesto he did?
Yes, but I was probably too young to be reading it. But
He
yeah, I
hit the
read it.
nail on the head with just about all of that stuff about how technology and the internet and all this stuff was going to
Mhm.
affect us.
He did. The guy was brilliant. It really was. But I find it very, very strange that somebody with that high a level of intellectualism, that high of an IQ, the whole thing makes no sense. Even back then, when I was a kid, I just thought it was strange that somebody would be some sort of professor who lived out in the woods. He stayed to himself. They talked about him having a vendetta against the government, but they were real murky on what this vendetta was. It just seemed
Yeah,
that manifesto seemed to be just anger, just general
indication
anger
of
towards.
what his vendetta was
Yeah,
whatsoever.
there was anger towards the way things were going as far as the government and technology, but it wasn't really pointed from what I remember. But you're absolutely right. It's very strange to me though that somebody on staff with him when he worked there doesn't remember.
Yeah, I'm not buying that.
I'm
You
not
know,
either.
I am behind the theory of Mandela effect. I can't tell you how or why or anything like that, really. But this one, I don't believe has anything to do with the Mandela effect. I think this is a psychological operation.
How many people actually dropped a one? Let's see.
It was a good bit.
It was a good bit.
Yeah.
See, Erev, um, Wisdom of the Early Christians, Steve Wolf, Diesel. Well, Steve Wolf actually didn't know. He changed his to it too. Um, but see, Mr. D Knuckles, the one that really set in perspective, because I think either me or you or both of us said it was 1998, but it was murky. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I even think we both said the year 98.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it. Now I'm still putting this together. Lightning bolts are still flying as I'm speaking to you. But what if this cat was just a patsy from Jump Street? They saw a very brilliant yet socially, awkward kid, threw him through MK Ultra, and they were running their ops on the side with him to put it on the entire time.
Think
Now,
about it. He checked a lot of boxes for them.
yeah, he
He
absolutely
blew up
did.
a government building. He blew up an abortion clinic.
And this was back then when it's a hot button
Yeah.
topic now in a way, but that's when you had Christians willingly going to prison. I mean, some of them, yeah, because they were arrested so many times that they threw them in prison because they would stand in front of abortion clinics, stand in front of the doors. They made nuisances of themselves to these people. Now, when you look at what MK Ultra really is underneath the surface, yes, they're breaking and fracturing the mind to start initiating these multiple personalities. But if you believe some of the people who were involved, and even some people who allegedly worked for the government and initiated some of these MK Ultra programs, not only did they fracture people's personalities and fracture their minds, but inside of these fractured pieces, they would place spirits. They would place multiple different spirits in these things, and that always made sense to me because one of the people that came forth that claimed to work for this MK Ultra program said that the assassin of Robert F. Kennedy, Sirhan, was a part of this program. And the Montauk Project's what comes to mind. But when this dude who was talking about Sirhan was as confused can be as to what was even going on. He didn't know. I don't believe he did anything. I don't believe he did anything wrong. He was the patsy. And there's footage. You can look at the footage of that assassination. You have to break it down frame by frame. But there's people in the frame who don't react whatsoever to the gunshot. I can tell you from growing up in the country, from shooting guns. I mean, I'm not a crack shot with a pistol, but I'm Annie Oakley with the rifle. It's going to give you a little bit of a start. Just a little bit. You're gonna react. Your body's gonna react. So whose body doesn't react, or who doesn't react, period, to a gunshot happening in a building where somebody who's running for president is? I mean, that would send most people into a panic.
Allow me to throw a little bit of gas on this fire.
All right.
Think on this. You take Sirhan, okay? The guy that I forget, Chapman, the one that
he plugged is he the one that plugged Reagan? Or he's the one that killed Lennon?
That was the one that killed Lennon. And the one that did Reagan, he was another thing entirely. His family had dinner with George Bush Sr. on record the night before.
No kidding.
No kidding. That's in
pause. Time out. Little fun fact. Chapman is from Ardmore, Oklahoma, my hometown. Unpause.
Anyway, what I was going to get at with that is all of these guys had the same psychologist.
No way.
Yeah. And the Batman shooter from Aurora that shot up that movie theater, the one that shot up that Pulse nightclub, all of these guys had the same guy. And I can't remember which one of them it was. It was either Jolly and West or Ewan Cameron. But one of them is the guy that ran MK Ultra, and the other one was his protege.
I have heard that about Chapman and the other guy who plugged Lennon. I did hear that. I didn't know all of them. Yeah. Well, there you have it. Now, was he their psychologist before they committed their crime or after?
Before and after.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Now, see, there's linking tissues between all of them. And I know it's unrelated, but just as an example, and I don't know if there's that much information out about these assassins, but something else we spoke of before was brain fart. Just left. What was it? The not the assassins that we were just talking about, but it's the Church of the Process.
Oh, yeah.
The Church of the Process, folks. If you didn't know, Charles Manson, the Son of Sam killer,
Jim Jones.
Jim Jones was definitely CIA, but he was an agent. He was CIA, and he took them to Ghana to basically run these MK Ultra programs on them.
Yeah.
And who else was it? Jim Jones,
L. Ron Hubbard,
Jack
Parsons.
Yeah, L. Ron Hubbard, Jack Parsons, part of the Church of the Process. The list goes on and on and on. I wouldn't be surprised if Ted Bundy wasn't a part of them.
Oh, yeah, that guy, Clay Shaw. And the other guy that was down there with him, the one that Joe Pesci played the part of in that movie, JFK.
Right.
one had cancer.
And they were operators.
They were all bishops in the Church of the Process.
So these CIA ops were bishops in the Church of the Process. The same one who and the Tate LaBianca murders is when I started studying that. That's where I've learned about the Church of the Process, and I was very surprised to find the Son of Sam killer, not Ted Berkowitz, John Berkowitz. Berkowitz is his last name.
Berkowitz,
Yeah, Berkowitz is his last name. You guys can look it up if you want.
the
But
Son of Sam.
that guy's a brother in the faith. We'll see him drinking from the fountains of the waters of life. There's no doubt in my mind. I watched this interview with him.
Saved in prison.
Yeah, he did. And he got really saved. The Lord moved on him and gave him the Holy Spirit because the Spirit of truth resonated with me. And he laid it all out on the line. He said that he was demon possessed. He was doing a lot of drugs. He was going in the priorities that he was describing that he went to. He said there was doctors. David Berkowitz. Thank you. Thank you, sister.
David Berkowitz. That was it. Well, that chat comes in handy, don't it?
Yeah, it does. That's why I like talking with the chat. You know what I mean? It's like we're having a conversation that, you know, you just got to wait to read instead of hear what the other people are contributing. But he said that he went to these parties and that there were lawyers, doctors, local politicians, nationwide politicians, congressmen and such, and him. And he came from a very modest, to say the least, background. So there's no doubt in my party. There's no doubt in my mind. The parties that he said he was attending were these so-called Illuminati parties, these satanic ritual parties. And what he said was going on there, what he said was going on there were satanic rituals. So the Church of the Process comes to mind when you think of MK Ultra, and there's no doubt in my mind. I don't know what the linking tissue is, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if there was one. But going back to Kaczynski, reading that just kind of adds a lot of, like you said, it adds fuel to the fire. This is definitely an ops. This is a psyops if I've ever seen one, on the heels of one.
Yeah.
So we have the so-called alien crashing, which, folks, I got to talk to somebody who was skeptical. And I'm going to lay it out logically. I'm not even going to bring my faith into it because God gave me the logical, intellectual mind that I have, and you guys too. To be Christian is not to be anti-intellectual, like some people would believe. But looking at the scene as it was, something coming from outer space, breaking through our atmosphere, glowing so hot that it's turning green, it would level a building. Remember the meteor that exploded right over the atmosphere. I mean, there was pieces that hit debris, but the meteor that came in the atmosphere over Russia, I mean, it set off
windows.
It blew out windows,
like
car alarms.
Square.
Yeah, it killed people, you know. And there were some people that actually filmed just the initial explosion from that. Like you just said, miles away, windows are exploding.
Yeah. You know where I live right now? I forget how many years ago it was. It was one of the last space shuttle launches, right?
Right.
When they came and landed, they couldn't land out there where they normally land at, White Sands out there?
Right.
They had to go all the way to Cape Canaveral to land. That thing came over where I live, and that was the loudest sonic boom I've ever heard in my life.
And I may not just be up to snuff on it, but have anybody heard about any windows being blown out or anything like that? I haven't. Or any deaths from this thing landing. They showed an overhead view of this object in the parking lot, and the object was, it was, redacted or whatever. But I found it awful strange. The concrete wasn't even broken underneath it. It didn't look like to me.
Yeah.
So how is something with that type of velocity that's impacting the ground, that's coming from outside our atmosphere into the atmosphere at a ridiculous speed, even if it's being slowed down, like how's it not cause practically any damage?
And how did the inhabitants survive?
Exactly. Whatever was in there, I don't care what they were. They'd be applesauce.
Yeah.
They'd be scooping them out with a ladle.
Yeah, there'd be goo all over the inside of that thing.
I guess that's a great question. He said he's not, or she, I'm sorry, darling. She's not sure that she's on the right page. Oh, it was a he. Not quite sure I'm on the same page. Which meteor in Russia? We're not talking about the one that crashed into Siberia that you can still
No,
see
we're not
like
talking about Tunguska. We're talking about the one that was a little over a decade ago,
yeah.
where it
Was it?
came in and just went kaboom and blew all those windows out and scared the crap out of everybody.
Yeah, I guess it was about a decade ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, time creeps by, don't it?
Yeah, it does. Time will be sped up. There's a
Yeah,
good
it
one
was
for
when
Ted.
Obama was president.
Yep. But suffice it to say, I mean, it's pretty crazy. I mean, you can't. It's things you can't deny. That
All of
yeah, you can't deny that something with that type of impact is going to cause some damage. If it's a craft, they even called it a craft. If it's a craft, it's made out of some sort of material. Now I don't. It maybe it's called it space age material, whatever. But it's going to bust up that concrete after on the impact of it.
at
I
least.
mean, at least. And
You know, another thing to me, I listened to that 911 call, right?
right,
And just listening to the 911 call, it sounded like somebody giving their Bigfoot experience.
right, it was.
They
And
saw a light floating around. They see one creature. He said, there's a creature in my backyard. It's 8 foot tall. There's two of them. And the other one's about 10 foot tall.
yes,
And it's got big eyes and a big mouth. And its eyes are glowing.
and that's the language that they use too. The creature. Who would say that? Like if I saw, and I'm an active field investigator. If I saw something in my backyard that got described, first of all, I don't know if I'd call the police. Second of all, well, especially it being me, they'd probably use that as an opportunity to put me in Guantanamo Bay. But second of all, just the way it was described, one was 8 feet tall, the other one was 9 feet tall, had glowing, I think, white or yellow eyes or something like that.
Yeah.
But there's a video.
1.8 and 1.10. And they had
Yes.
big eyes and a big wide mouth, and its eyes were glowing.
Yep. You can superimpose that on any Sasquatch. But it's an absolute psyops. We're quickly approaching 2030. And if you don't know the significance of that, I always implore people to do their own research. There was the Agenda 2021, and it got moved up to 2030. And there's too many things that are in place that are happening in between then, and CERN being one of them. But by 2030, the CERN Large Hadron Collider will be going almost twice the speeds that it is now. And tell them what you told me about the CERN Large Hadron Collider and what they've done so far.
Yeah. They admitted recently that not only did they affect the Earth's core and the way it spins or whatever, they said that they had actually had a measurable effect on the magnetic field of the Earth and on the magnetic field of the sun and its reaction to the Earth's magnetic field. Who thinks that's a good idea?
That's crazier than hell.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
possibly think it's a good idea to jack around with the magnetic field of the Earth and the sun.
yeah, and I mean, there's scientists that are smart enough to understand the consequences of it for sure.
Yeah. Well,
And
I'm glad somebody does because I don't. I don't understand all the consequences that could have. And to be honest, I don't think they do either.
well, they have their theories now. This is what happens, and this was reported not too long ago as well, that the core of the Earth had stopped. Did you hear about this?
Yes, I
And
did.
that coincides with it reversing its rotation.
Yeah.
And this was reported in newspapers. This was reported in Science magazine.
Yeah, China came out and made an announcement to the world and the
Yep.
international community saying that the Earth's core had not only stopped spinning, that it had reversed.
And when you look at the dates, that's how you know for sure. Look at the dates when because they put it on their website. that the Large Hadron Collider was fired up, I don't even have to see. I can guarantee you it's when that happened. So now this is the science behind that, folks. If the Earth's core were to suddenly stop, it would have catastrophic consequences for the planet and its inhabitants. The core of the Earth consists primarily of molten iron and nickel, and its rotation generates a magnetic field that chills the planet from harmful solar radiation.
Yeah.
So one cause, or one of the causations, one of the results of that rather,
Yeah, that's
is a
our
loss of
planetary defense shield.
right.
Just like in Star Wars, they're turning off the force field. That's not a good idea.
Exactly. So the loss of the magnetic field, the Earth's magnetic field would weaken and eventually disappear without the Earth's core's rotation. This magnetic field is crucial for protecting the atmosphere and surface from harmful solar radiation and charged particles. Without it, these particles would penetrate the atmosphere, leading to increased risk of cancer, genetic mutations, and other health problems. Disrupted climate. The magnetic field also plays a role in stabilizing the climate by influencing atmospheric circulation patterns. Without it, weather patterns could become more erratic and extreme, leading to increased frequency and severity of storms, hurricanes, and other natural disasters. Loss of geothermal energy. The Earth's core is a significant source of geothermal energy. The heat generated by the core drives tectonic plate movements, volcanic activity, and geothermal vents. We just had a volcano almost erupt, or did erupt a little bit. If the core were to stop, these processes would slow down or cease, resulting in the loss of geothermal energy as a renewable energy source. Changes in gravity. Now, this one's the interesting one. The Earth's core contributes to the planet's mass, and any disruption in its movement would have implications for gravity. The gravitational pull could weaken or fluctuate, affecting various aspects of life, such as ocean tides, orbital stability, and even the human body's adaptation to gravity. Now, pause on that. Folks, nobody can explain to you what gravity is. We've been taught gravity, but it's a theory we've been taught. Albert Einstein couldn't explain what gravity was. It's a theory. Now, I think a little bit outside the box. I believe in the electromagnetic plane. And what's taking place out there in the woods with the electromagnetic field is why you see people who are going to look for the American gorilla taking the same type of instrumentation that they would go to a haunted house to check for the electromagnetic fields. I believe that's what this atmosphere they bring with them is. That's just my personal opinion. And I believe it's a combination of the two, the area that they're in and these creatures and whatever little natural environment and their natural electromagnetic field that they bring with them. I think that it has something to do. One has something to do with the other. So
Yeah.
I'll put it this way. When you hear the term gravitational anomalies, you can put that in layman's terms as that's where weird shit happens. Where there's gravitation.
Remember, that's how they found Gilgamesh's tomb, was from magnetic anomalies they saw from space, from a satellite.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that. The tomb of Nimrod. Or Gilgamesh, which I believe Nimrod is Gilgamesh.
Yeah, one's a title, one's a name.
Which I don't know which is the title and which is the name, but I think Nimrod would be the name, right?
I know Nimrod means a great hunter before the Lord.
Right.
So yeah, I think that was his name.
And Gilgamesh would be his title for whatever that means. So his wisdom of the early Christians has something very astute to add. Tesla didn't believe in Einstein's theory on gravity. Interesting side note, since he was killed and his note stolen. I don't know that he was killed, but everything that he wrote down was absolutely stolen.
Yeah,
I don't think they have to kill him. I think that
he was
honestly,
pretty darn old.
Yeah, and I think they kept him like a sweet old grandpa, and they were as nice can be to him. And as soon as he bit the dust, they went in there and took all the stuff. Because I mean, he wasn't playing with the full deck towards the end of his life, but he had all his mental faculties. Or maybe he was playing with the full deck. Maybe that was just some disinformation. Let me tell you something, folks. After this Kaczynski thing, because if I had to roll the dice on it, I say that he died already. And that's true. John Trump, President Trump's uncle,
He evaluated all his stuff.
Yes. And there was a book written in the late 1800s, this is crazy, by a man named, I think his name was John Trump or something. I think it was the same name or something like that. But it was about a kid named Barron who built a time machine and went into the past and went into the future.
Yeah,
Barron
he actually
Trump.
wrote 2 books. One was The Last President, and the other one was, I think, was The Adventures of Barron Trump.
You know what? I'm going to actually download those PDFs tonight. I want to read those. I'm very, very interested. Now, if those are just titles and the contents of the book is a bunch of hot garbage, like, I'll let you guys know. But I'm very interested in that. I'm not one that believes in coincidence, happenstance, nor chance. I think it's all ordained, and I think it's all means something, even the most insignificant thing you could think of. So it's very strange. All this stuff is very strange. And on a little side note, thank you for all who've made contributions to the channel. If you like the content you see here and you would like to see it continue, please consider making a contribution to the BDRP Supernatural YouTube channel by using the links below or the ones that you have with you in chat. It'd be greatly appreciated. So, Ted Kaczynski, in my mind, did die, just like our friend said, back in the late 90s. I sincerely do believe that.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're trying to do with this nonsense, but it's nefarious. The whole thing has got this nefarious feel. So let's go back to the article and see what it says, because I'm really anxious to see how he lived the rest of his life up until 2023 in prison.
Well, if he was still alive, then it's because they lied to us back then, and they had him probably in a government lab somewhere turning stuff out for him for the last 20 years.
Yeah, exactly. But why would they bring him in prison to say he died now, though?
Just to throw a spoke in everybody's wheels. They're trying to keep us all off balance.
That makes sense. So, where were we?
Same reason they're throwing all this other madness at us.
Yeah, and I find it awful funny, the timing of it. All right, sorry, folks. I can go down and probably tell you something about every one of those people in the math department at the time and picture them in my mind. One Cal math professor told the Times, but I can't recollect this guy, nor does anybody I know recollect him. That's crazy.
Well, that's like Obama. The people from Harvard said they didn't remember him being there.
Yeah, they did. They did say that. And see, this isn't anything like, we're not talking stuff from outer space. There's government declassified documents where heavily redacted, but the stuff that was talking about them running crazy psyops on the American people.
Yeah.
And for those who don't know, psyops is a psychological operation. I'm surprised that I don't remember the name. John Addison, the chair of the Berkeley Math Department from 1968 to 1972, told the Oakland Tribune. I gather the guy was quite withdrawn. So you got the chair of, yes, he doesn't remember him. That's madness, because that's his boss.
Yeah, there's no way. I'm not buying
There's no
that.
way. No, I'm not buying it either. Either that dude's lying.
It was just another teacher, but the chair of the department, come on. He has to approve the hiring and firing of everybody that works for him.
Brother, the first managerial gig I got, we were talking about earlier, was at the high-end grocery store here in town. I was the youngest manager for any of the stores. To this day, I run into people who worked underneath me at that grocery store. And I know them by name. They know me by name. We remember each other. We ask about each other's kids, so on and so forth.
Of course.
I find it extremely hard to believe. And that's a grocery store. That's not a higher level or higher place of education and learning. Say again?
How long did he work there? Did it say how long he was actually employed there at Berkeley?
It hasn't yet. It might. Let's go back and check. Don't want to make myself into a liar. He was 16 when he stepped foot on campus. That was Harvard. So he went to Harvard and then started working at Berkeley. This is Berkeley, right? That he worked at?
Yeah.
It hadn't said yet. And it doesn't. It doesn't say. Imagine that. I guess I can read the rest of this just for shits and giggles, but no, I don't even want to read the rest of it. I've seen all I need to see. The rest of it is
That's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
yeah, the rest of it doesn't seem like it's hold on. Let's go ahead. He lived in a cottage behind a main residence on the 200 block of Regent Street, in a quiet residential neighborhood near Willard Park. According to a law enforcement source who spoke to the Tribune in 1996, Kaczynski, see, now he was arrested by then, right?
Yep.
So 1998 would put it about right for him to be executed.
Yeah. That would
Kaczynski
be
was all.
exactly right.
Say it one more time. When we talk over each other, we get that sound. What'd you say?
That would be just about exactly the right amount of time.
Right, because we said that he was arrested what in the mid 90s, right?
Yep.
This is weird, bro. Like this really is. This is weird. Kaczynski was already writing letters complaining about the dangers to human freedom posed by genetic engineering, computers, and behavior modification. Exactly what we're seeing today, folks, when he lived in that cottage. Strangely, Cal professor T. Kaczynski makes one appearance in newspaper archives during this time. In December 1968, he helped the Oakland Tribune with a reader-submitted question and answer column. The reader asked about a math puzzle, the sort where you start with a number, do a few functions, and always end up with your age. The Tribune somehow got in touch with Kaczynski to weigh in on if the trick really works. We think by the time your party goers have had several drinks, they will not only wreck the puzzle, but really won't care, the column joked. Cal Professor T. Kaczynski says the puzzle always works if your friend is less than 100 years old and his birthday comes earlier in the year. Every time I do a show, she wants to go, calm down. I guess that means that it's almost time to wrap it up. Professor T. Kaczynski says the puzzle always works if your friend is less than 100 years old and his birthday comes earlier in the year than the day on which the computation is made. 2 years after taking the prestige job at UC Berkeley, Kaczynski resigned. So 2 years. The letter read simply, "I quit." I just bet it did. So 2 years, which seems like an insignificant amount of time. It really is in the long run of things. But I just find it very, 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 very strange that the people that work there, honestly, I'd remember somebody who was quiet and withdrawn more than I would remember some loudmouth, honestly. Like it just,
yeah.
And I've worked with people like that, the ones that are quiet and withdrawn, and some people consider weird. I for whatever reason, I remember them a little bit more than I remember most people. So, yeah, it's just very strange. So Timothy McVeigh died June 11th, 2001. That sounds about right. So, and I didn't get to do this, and I'm a traditionalist. I'm a stickler for tradition. So here we go. The folks joining us this evening for tonight's early show, or this evening's early show, Robert Clark, great friend of the channel, my brother Diesel 2K, Donut, E. Rev, Wisdom of the Early Christians, Steve Wolf, Mr. D. Knuckle, a great old friend of the channel, my nephew, World Weather Authority. Folks, if you need your weather, if you're going outside, if you live on planet Earth, I'll put it to you this way, and you're walking outside, you need to know what the weather is. You absolutely do. You know that, I know that. I suggest you go to World Weather Authority here on YouTube and check it out. You actually have a weatherman who knows this stuff and has the personality of a human being. That's World Weather Authority with my nephew, Zach. Also, who else joined us? Donut, if I didn't say that, Miss Ivy Ramirez, the great Donna Stokes, Peter Birdsall, and
Wisdom of the Early Christians asked the question.
All right, I'll get to it. Stimulate. And if I missed your name, I'm sincerely sorry. All right, go for it, bro.
All right, he said, D, do you think they may have used a device like Men in Black and swiped their memories, or was Kaczynski just brainwashed to be the fall guy, given a code word and prompted to come forward?
Wow, that's a good question. So basically, is Kaczynski a Manchurian candidate, or do I think that there's some sort of a flim flam taking place where it's messing with our memories? That's a great question, and this is a theory that I have. I think of one of the unfortunate byproducts of the CERN Large Hadron Collider being fired up is it may be doing something to our minds. Maybe. But that's loosey goosey because I don't believe the Lord would allow certain things to happen to us, but I don't know. I mean, that's the best answer I have. All I have is conjecture and, like I said, loosey goosey hypothesis on this because your
Well, yeah.
guess is as good as mine. I mean, he's definitely was. Go ahead.
I said that'd be all any of us have on this.
Yeah, it's definitely um, MK Ultra. Definitely MK Ultra. That's involved. I mean, it's even stated as much in that article. So,
Me personally, what I think, and I could be wrong, I think that those guys don't remember him because he wasn't there as a teacher. He was more than likely there working in some sort of lab, and they were doing that as a cover for him. And while they were doing their MK Ultra stuff, and they just, you know, he went off the reservation and got to doing some things. And when they realized it was one of their own people, his brother turned him in, uh, conveniently, I guess you could say. And then he just didn't even fight it. So yeah, he was the fall guy on purpose. But either he went crazy and went off the reservation and did that, or the MK Ultra stuff was done to make him do that. Either way. But yeah, I believe the reason they don't remember him is because he wasn't a teacher there. And
sorry about that, folks. Had to let Sweet Luna out. I need to remember to do that before Hey, what's up, Raleigh R? Snuck in here on us last minute.
yeah, like I told them, I think that it's probably that he was just really working in a lab there, and he wasn't a teacher there. Is why they don't remember him.
You know what this reminds me of? Old Bob Lazar.
Yeah.
It's so clear cut that they went back and whitewashed all his records. It's unreal.
Oh yeah.
They'll talk to the people that don't remember, but they're people that do, they'll suppress. Now, back in the day, I know you remember this. Back in the day, folks, before YouTube is what it is now, if you wanted the truth the way we give it to you, you had to go to a blog. And some blogs got really, really big. I mean, that's how we shared information like this. This is how we shared knowledge. But of course, most of those, if not all, got taken over by the ABC agencies and their people. Then they started giving disinformation in. And we were talking about that earlier. Some of the people especially in ufology, and there's no doubt that they exist within the Bigfoot world too. Don't ask me who I believe them to be because I'm honest and I'm going to tell you. But there's obviously disinformation artists and agents in every single aspect of anything weird that's real. You better believe there is, because they're not going to have you have the unfiltered truth of this world without them being the one putting on the filter. They just won't do it. They can't combat truth because truth only comes from one source, but they can doggone sure try to thwart it, either that or twist it. So, element 115, element 115, also called unobtainium. Folks, this element was rumored to be around before Bob Lazar was even known, and they found out it was real. I think that was another one of these weird byproducts that they got from CERN. Unobtainium. So
another thing to think about is this right here. They were asking, could it be some type of directed energy weapon or whatever, Most people don't understand this or know this, but do you know that every cell phone tower runs in the same wavelength as the human brain. They could have chosen from a vast array of frequencies. And what frequency did they choose? The range that all human brains work in.
I'll be
That's
doggone.
no coincidence.
Yeah, I mean that's just one of these crazy coincidences you run up across.
Yeah, yeah, what a coinky dink.
But I'll tell you what though, it's all coming to a head. There's way too many people who don't understand the simple concept that we live in this world, and though that we do believe in God, He is the creator of us all. He's the creator of reality as you know and experience it. But there is a little G God of this world. And the little G God of this world wants to keep you under subjugation. He wants to delineate what reality is for you. That's why some of our nephews and nieces, sons and daughters, even our parents, and some of you even, will get on Facebook and scroll and scroll and scroll and find things that 10, 15 years ago wouldn't interest you, you wouldn't care about. Now, with all your heart and soul, you'll argue with a stranger about, to the point where that emotion that you feel online is being taken offline and it's affecting you and your family and your relationships. And that's not by accident. That is absolutely positively, it's obvious to me that, and it's brilliant. Not only is it obvious, it's brilliant. It's brilliant the way that they've subjugated the minds of people, because it's so many intricate, finite little spider webs that are connecting, that there can only be one source. There's only one being that's smart enough to put all that together. And I'll let you decide who that is on your own. But I think we all know who. I mean, at the very top of in the very center of that spider web is the same spider that was there at the very beginning, tricking the first man. He cannot have us have truth unfiltered, no sugar, no cream. That's the last thing he wants.
Yeah, that's not in their best interest.
No, it's not in their best interest. Because I mean, like, folks, think about it. If you and as my and you know, I've gone this whole show, I think, without making a biblical reference. I almost said did good, but I am trying to separate the two. But I'm going to go ahead and make one. What the Lord frees is free indeed, and that's the truth. Once you get those scales peeled back and you can see the world as it is, it makes that Matrix movie take on a whole new meaning. I'll put it to you that way. It's not
Yeah,
that we live in some artificial world. It's, I mean, the world as we see it isn't as it is most of the time, unless you do look through those spiritual eyes. So, in that, we've reached our hour. You got anything for him, big bro?
you know, I could tell World Weather Authority was kin to you. I liked what he said. Mind control in our educational system is heavy, and I could not agree more.
Amen.
You know, I was putting in the communication systems in schools back in the 90s. And I remember going in there. It was just after they come out with that zero tolerance policy. And they had a stripe painted on the floor, just like they do in prisons. And those children had to walk on that stripe and couldn't touch the wall or talk to one another. And they weren't even allowed to talk to each other in the cafeteria. And I turned around and looked at a buddy of mine that I was working with, and I said, you know, they're making good little Nazis here.
That's crazy.
And to see what it has done to our society in that time and how much worse it is now than it was then, I really, really pray for these children. I feel so bad for
I don't feel bad for those snotty nosed, pimple faced brats at all.
them.
I wish we could put them all on a boat and send them to Nowhere Island. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, sort of. But no, I mean they are some snotty nosed, pimple faced, entitled little brats. They think the world revolves around them. But that's the way they've been trained. That goes right back into what I was saying. But we have to take responsibility for that. Not we, the ones on that you're listening to now, and the ones in this chat, and most that listen afterwards. We actually raised our children as we were raised, and sensibilities, and with a divine being who guided us that is way smarter than we are. And nowadays, you have these kids, these parents are just putting tablets in front of their face, setting them in front of the TV, and going about their day. Let the internet raise your kid. That's a great idea.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what. He asked are there trigger words. This is an interesting question. Are there trigger words for MK Ultra? That reminds me of two things. There's that what's that big old fat dude's name who was a weatherman? Al Roker.
Yeah,
Al Roker, after he lost all that weight. If you remember, they were talking about like some winter ball or something in high schools. Do you remember the word that was said that triggered him into that staring contest?
No, actually, I don't. What was it?
That lady who the newscaster was talking to, they were, talking about dances when they were in school. And she said, at my old Catholic church or my old Catholic school, they said, leave room for the Holy Spirit. And as soon as she said Holy Spirit, boom. You could see the snap in his face. I'll never forget that, bro. Leave room for the Holy Spirit. And it was like that just derailed his mind.
Well, Shaq did the same thing on ESPN right around that same time.
Right. And there's others.
All that stuff where they had them people like Judge Judy and everything just start babbling that word salad. Now that was scary.
That was weird, but you know what I think that was? They just start focusing on people that were having mild strokes. I think some of these people were having mild strokes, honestly. Some of them you can't really say that about because they were just
there was some of these people that were in their 20s.
Yeah, like that newscaster
that weather girl.
Yeah.
That was like 24, 25 years old. I don't think she was having no stroke, brother. And they were all doing it right around the same time.
That's the thing about it. There was a lot that were doing around the same time. But before I get off track, there was two. One was Al Roker, and two, if you remember, and this is way, way back when what's it called? Uber and the other one, Uber, and what's the other thing that killed cabs?
You talking about Lyft?
Yes, but I think it was Uber. An Uber driver, and this is right at Uber's infancy, years and years ago, said that an app on his phone told him to kill the passenger and kill himself. And I felt it even back then, bro. I don't think he was lying at all. I think that somehow he had picked up some phone or an app that was random. That somebody somewhere wanted to run some sort of an operation, and they said, "Okay, cell phone 1.86531, hit it, boom." And that's triggered some sort of, like you said, the wavelengths are on that of the human mind, of the brain. When he hit some app while he was driving, and he just got inundated with whatever that wavelength, what was encoded in that wavelength, and it, fried his wires, and he tried to kill himself in that passenger. I believe that wholeheartedly. He didn't have a history of alcohol, didn't have a history of drug use, didn't have a history of mental illness, not him or his family on either side. So what would make somebody's mind snap like that? That's an outside source doing that, in my opinion. So those are the two things. Yeah, when she talks about or I'm not she, but nephew, when he said something about trigger words, I believe you and him. I believe that it is some sort of a wavelength that they're taking advantage of, and it's some sort of a trigger word that they're using on people that have already gone through that program.
Yeah. Well, me and you and James were talking the other day, and I brought that up about there was a guy that was sitting in his house minding his business, and this apparently homeless person breaks into his house and tries to kill him and his family and tells him, "I'm going to kill you and your whole family." And he shoots the guy and kills him. A couple weeks later, another homeless looking person with their hair dyed the same shade of purple come in and told him, "I told you I was going to kill you and your whole family, and there's nothing you can do to stop it." Well, he shot that one too. That one didn't die.
What happened? What happened?
It has to be linked.
Absolutely, it's linked. And see, that reminds me, the MK Ultra, they also call it the bunny program or something like that, where they put the bunny ears on them and all, the link being with Alice in Wonderland, but also the Um, there's the Alice in Wonderland one, and then they dye their hair blonde. Even
Mm-hmm.
the men, they'll dye their hair blonde. And I think the hair being dyed blonde is when they go back in for readjustments. It's a public sign to say, "Hey, this one kind of went on the fritz, but we fixed them, boss."
Yeah.
These secret societies and all these shadowy cabals and these ABC agencies, they're all about the ancient way of communicating, and you can communicate most effectively across languages and cultures through symbology. There's this old fat dude with glasses. It turns out, I mean, he's a zealot for Helena Blavatsky. I actually liked the guy until he started talking about the Lord Jesus Christ, and I saw how he was completely lost in the sauce. I think he passed away here in the past few years. Jordan Maxwell, I want to say his name is. I may be
Yeah,
wrong on
that's
that.
him. That's
Jordan
Jordan.
Maxwell.
Yeah.
He says so much true stuff. I mean, he's got his stuff together when it comes to that symbology, but he is an apologist for Helena Blavatsky. He's in love with her. I think he'd kiss her in the mouth if she was alive today.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I've not seen one interview where he doesn't refer back to her.
Yeah.
And she wasn't no more original than New Coke. But
No.
yeah, like he spoke about and again, truth comes in strange packages sometimes, but it's never unequivocal truth. But he talked about the symbology that they would use, and I think that's a part of it. That blonde hair that's in them out in the public, like Eminem.
Yeah. That's exactly what I was thinking about. You remember that
Yep.
when he was on the Grammys that year and they had like 200 of them come through there with that white t-shirt and the blonde hair? That was
Yes.
definitely symbolism.
It was absolutely symbolism. I think that was a part of their Crowley type magic that they're doing. You know,
Yeah.
they're showing it. The Crowley had this. I forget exactly what you call it, but it was a part of his magic with a K. If you ever see somebody reading books with magic written on it with a K, and they're talking about they practice magic, get out of there.
Yeah.
Just get some yonder. Go on about politely, excuse yourself to the bathroom and crawl out of the window. But
Just start like screaming like Yosemite Sam going, retreat, retreat.
yeah, exactly. Retreat. Yeah, because I mean, those people will go hard in the paint. I'm not gonna lie to you. I give credit where credit's due.
Close it up.
Close it up again. Man, these people are crazy. And what Crowley did was he would tell you in subtle ways. You didn't necessarily have to know that it was a part of an incantation or a spell. But if you acknowledged it, even if it was hidden in language, that gave him some sort of juice to make that spell that much more powerful.
Oh yeah.
I do believe that you're right on that. That's I think what they're doing with this cloning stuff, and that's
Yep.
that was Yosemite Sam cartoon, if anybody was wondering. But yeah, that's what they did with that when they were marching all them out there because, bro, I think there's been 3 or 4 different M&Ms. Again, I'm like you. I'm not necessarily subscribed to the clone thing, but I'm more on the clone side of the fence than I am there's not.
The more I see, the more I'm becoming certain of it.
There's too much. There's too much going on. There's too much weird stuff. Like Eminem's perfect example. There was one year he took a little hiatus, and he comes back and he's all swolled up. I mean, he looks like he's been really bench pressing, getting himself up and weight. Then he comes back and he looked like he did before. Like you can't take off and put on muscle like that without it aging. Now I know people are going to say, well, what about these people in the superhero movies? You take a really good look at The Rock. You know what I'm saying? Like he's put on some age. You can tell, and I mean, black don't crack, but still he looks his age.
And that dude works out like 6 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see Eminem working out 6 hours a day.
I don't either. I don't see him doing nothing 6 hours a day when they got him in that little cryostasis chamber, so he doesn't age too fast.
Yeah.
Because if there is a clone, he's one. I'll tell you another one. That rapper, the one we were talking about the other day, who actually came out and said he was a clone. Now, people say, oh, well, that he's just having body fun. He's kind of making a joke out of it. I don't think he was,
trying
bro.
to get some attention.
There's been way too many people. Not Francis Ford Coppola, Oliver Stone. Oliver Stone's son. Now, I'm going to ask something real fast. What was it?
His name's Sean Stone.
Sean Stone. if anybody knows who that is, which I'm guessing everybody does, we're all cut from the same cloth. Drop a 1 in the chat if you think Sean Stone is legit. Drop a 2 in the chat if you think he's working for them people, if he's working for the red team. And while y'all are doing that, while those are tallying, I'm going to run out and get Sweet Luna. I'll be right back. You have the helm, sir.
All righty. When you for instance, when he was coming on there with Jesse Ventura, he had that TV show, and his son and Sean Stone became really good friends. And he came on there and he put him in touch with some people that had some really good information. But some of them were straight weird. I'll be honest with you. I don't know what to think about that guy. Sometimes I think, that he's.
Well, I guess they're not as nerdy as we are. People are saying they don't know him.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I would have figured they would have known that one. But
Brother Jeff says that. Go ahead. All right. Brother Jeff just said Eminem died of a drug overdose when Proof got shot and killed. That's interesting. If you got any stuff on that, bro, like shoot it to me. I want to check it out.
Yeah.
So
it's hard for me to know if that guy is working for him or not, but some of them it really is hard to tell.
It is hard to tell. And I don't know if he is. I'd like to think that he's not, because I want to get him on the show, and I think I can, because that guy, he's got some inside baseball.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I don't think his dad was. Do you think Oliver Stone was?
No, I don't think his dad. I don't think that he was a part of it.
I don't either.
I think he knew a good bit of people that were, and knew a good bit about stuff behind the scenes, but I don't think he was really working for them.
They wouldn't have ever let him put out that JFK movie if he was.
No.
Because, that told the truth of the JFK assassination. Or maybe they would.
Even more, that one that he put out about the Ukraine on fire.
I never got to see that one.
Oh, man. That right there makes me know that, no, he isn't one of them. Because they wanted to plant him after that, I'm sure.
Well, he's gone on to be with the Lord now, hasn't he?
I don't know. If he died, I didn't know about it. He may have.
I think so. Is Oliver Stone dead, guys? But we got to get World Weather Authority, Nephew Zach. You have an open invitation right here in the public, so you got to do it now. I want you as a guest on the show. He knows this stuff, bro. There's nothing that we've talked about that he doesn't have a little bit of information on. Some that I didn't even know. He's definitely adding to the conversation. You got to come on for a round table or something.
I would like to be on a round table with Sean Stone.
I'm going to try to get him, bro. I'm going to try to get him. And I've seen him on smaller channels before. He seems like a very congenial, cool dude. So I think we can. And he probably has some information on the Harry Scaries. You never know, but I'd love to talk to him.
Yeah, I would too. Because he's got the contacts.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And for those who don't know,
rubbing shoulders with everybody, and he had to be going to school with the kids of all those people, and there ain't no telling who all he knows.
Absolutely. So, but for all who don't know, Sean Stone is the son of director Oliver Stone, who directed JFK and Platoon. I almost said Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, but not Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. The other crazy one that was written, believe it or not, by Quentin Tarantino, Natural Born Killers.
Yeah.
So he's an awesome director.
Oh, yeah, he really is.
I put him up there with anybody, But,
of course. Platoon was one of the best movies ever made.
Yeah, it's up there. It's up there in the top 10 for sure. And it's one of those movies that the suspension of disbelief isn't all that heavy. You don't have to really try that hard for it to put you into you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I like movies like that.
Yeah.
Where I'm not like anymore nowadays with this heavy duty CGI and stuff. Feels like I'm watching cartoons.
And they don't have to hit you over the head with the subliminal stuff either on, movies like that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, that was a pretty straightforward movie, but
Yeah. I felt about the same way about all of the movie he made about JFK. I thought it was great.
it is a great movie. And you'll never hear me complain about long movies. Like,
No,
I mean, I could sit down and watch The Godfather in one sitting happily.
yeah. The
What's another
longer the
crazy?
better.
Yeah, for the most part. Now, Once Upon a Time in America,
Well, on a
like.
good movie, the longer the better. On a trash movie, the shorter the better.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't call Once Upon a Time in America trash, but it's like, there's nothing to write home about.
Yeah.
But JFK is one of those that, like, it seems like it goes on for years sometimes, bro. Like, it's a
Just
great
like John
movie.
Wick 4. That
Huh?
movie lasted at least an hour and a half too long.
Which one?
John Wick 4.
How long is John Wick for? I haven't seen John
Good
Wick 4
night. I didn't think it seemed like it was 4 or 5 hours. I know it wasn't, but it seemed.
Well, the greatest long running movie of all time. You know what that is, don't you?
What do you
Aven-
think it is?
Avengers Endgame.
Yeah.
Avengers Endgame's an epic, bro. You got to admit, that's an epic.
Yeah, it is.
Like when Captain America was standing on that hit, like he just got jacked up. He was giving old Thanos what for there for a hot minute until
Yeah.
Thanos, he pissed Thanos off and he's like, all right, I've had enough of this shit.
Yeah, that's enough of that.
Yeah, and he smoked his game. It looked like he almost cut his arm off.
Yeah.
That's one of the most epic scenes in any fantasy movie. Let's call it that.
Well, of course it is. Because you can look at that movie and what was the one before Infinity War and Endgame, and they are a modernized retelling of Revelations. It's the apocalypse.
In such a way. I see what you're saying.
God's on one side and the fallen angels and all their offspring. And then on the other side, you've got God and his angels and his children.
I see what you're saying. I mean, that's pretty loose, but I mean, I can see that. But there was a lot of Thanos did what he did in the comic books too, to be fair. But there was a lot of religious undertones and overtones.
Yeah.
So, especially from Thanos, but that's what he was supposed to have. He comes from the Greek word Thanatos. Yeah. So, anyways, I have nerd out there for a minute on that one. Folks, I sincerely appreciate this early show. Everybody who decided to join us, we had a pretty good crowd in at last minute. Make sure you stay tuned for the first of many pieces of content to come. We're going to start throwing the shorts back up for you guys, and you seem to always enjoy that. So, yeah, we're back and shooting and scooting like we're supposed to be. Because this is the thing about it, folks. When they demonetize channels like mine, and you've seen it, if you watch Christian channels, you've seen it. You've seen a lot go away. But I'm a dumb country boy who likes to fight. So, I mean, I'm still breathing, so I'm still going to come on here as long as y'all come and listen and then get involved. I'm going to keep doing it. So I sincerely appreciate y'all again, and we will see you tomorrow night. How about that one? God bless y'all.
Yeah, I want to say thanks to everybody for coming in here and giving us some good questions and giving us some answers too, for that matter.
Great questions.
And remind everybody to please hit the like button. That does help him get out further.
Absolutely. Hit like, subscribe if you haven't already, and share it around. I know a lot of you guys are on Facebook. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings earlier, but if you are, go ahead and share the video. That'd be awesome. Somebody might like it. And again, thank you for all the executive producers and the contributors. You guys are literally the ones who are making this show shoot forward. If you'd like to contribute, use the link in the chat or the one in the description box below. And I almost forgot. You're going to see it on the next video. But for all who don't know, my name is DeAntre Doss, DeUntra DOSS. Under my full name, my very first solo book, I've co-written 2 books with James Williams, Dark Waters, as you know. And my very first book that I've written on my own is Local Encounters that have been given to me personally. You can find that on Amazon and Kindle. As a matter of fact, you'll see the attachment on the next video, and by then it will be in the description box. If you want to check those out, you can't hear them anywhere else. You can't see them anywhere else. Got to go to Amazon, buy the book. It's $4.99. I think you guys will enjoy it. God bless y'all, and we'll see y'all on the next one.
Also, before long, with Brother D's help, I'm going to be putting out some videos myself. I don't have anything going yet, but I will soon.
And he's building it up. I'm going to be helping him, and I want you to throw all your support, same support you give me, behind his channel, because he's going to be doing way deep dives, and I'll be on there with him. You know, we'll have us a blast.
Oh yeah.
So God bless y'all again, and I'll see y'all next time. Yeah, thank you, Steve Wills. Steve Wills is a great executive producer. He's always helped out the channel, and I sincerely appreciate that. Big shout out to Steve Wolf. Big shout out to Diesel 2K. There's a bunch, and I know I'm missing some, but you know who you are. God bless y'all.
God bless and good night.